It's been a long while since we've got a new tech tree line within World of Tanks console, and today we have the brand new German Cold War light tank line that is going to be coming in to Cold War, obviously, and World of Tanks console, alongside a few other things that will be very useful for anyone that is interested in clans, as well as we've got a little quiz that we've also got going at the same time. So let's have a look at exactly what this German Cold War tech tree actually consists of, as well as all of the other news for this next week coming up on Tuesday next week. So first things first, the new German Cold War tech tree vehicles are what we've been given. We've been given some of the statistics of some of these alongside what they actually are, and some of these you'll already recognize, the first one being the RU-251. This is the tier 9 German light tank from the World War II line, and it will be coming in as post-war era 1. This tank will be 250,000 silver and 15.4 thousand XP if you want to be able to pick this one up. It gives access to the Kanonen Jagdpanzer 4.5, which we'll get into in a little bit, but essentially this is the RU-251 Sparpanzer, and so with this one you essentially are a super fast light tank that has no armor, as you can probably expect with a light tank, but it does feature a pretty nice, interesting main armament that deals only a 240 damage per shell, but it reloads very quickly, allowing you to have a 6.5 second reload for 2215 DPM, which to all intents and purposes in Cold War is nothing exceptional. You're not going to be breaking any records with this one, but you can go 89.3 kilometers an hour as your top speed with the RU-251, and of course this is the fully upgraded version of the tank, so it will be slightly worse if you are looking at it from the point of view of a brand new tank. So with that being said, 89.3 kilometers an hour puts it at one of the fastest vehicles in Cold War. It also comes along with a power to weight ratio of 33.64 kilometers an hour, which is exceptional. This is a very fast tank and is going to be able to run rings around a lot of opponents, and should be a pretty fun tank to actually play when you do jump into the game. Now, of course, the damage per minute, like we said, is pretty lackluster, but of course, as soon as you start adding some of the bonuses that we can put on vehicles, things like advanced loader and having some of the crew perks like rapid loading, you're going to be able to see around 2,500 to 2,600 as your kind of main damage per minute. Of course, with enhanced rations, stuff like that, it might get boosted slightly more. But yeah, overall, not too bad for a light tank, especially considering how fast it is. Hull traverse 40 degrees a second isn't exceptional. It's not the best in the game, but it's certainly nothing to scoff at. And then we've got 36 degrees a second turret traverse, so it's going to be able to run rings around a lot of people whilst also being able to hit them. So this thing should be a pretty fun one to play, and I'll certainly be giving it a go at some point during our Cold War time, and maybe we'll even do it on the stream. For those of you that are wondering, we are doing 30 days of streaming. We are on day 2 as of the recording and uploading of this, so hopefully you'll join me along and maybe catch me in the stream. But either way, videos as normal, so if you're interested in those, you can just watch along. Either way, of course, that isn't the only thing. Of course, being a light tank, you want to be able to spot things, and it gets 520 meters of base view range, which for a light tank is pretty decent in Cold War. And certainly when you start adding on things like advanced optics and stuff like that, you're going to be able to boost that considerably, and you're going to be really powerful at being able to spot a lot of the vehicles in the game. And considering that Cold War does have true vision, it might not seem as essential, but when you are getting assistance damage with this tank, you're going to be able to get a lot more XP, as well as using that kind of damage per minute and speed at the end of the game and in that middle portions of games to be able to kind of run rings around individual opponents, at least hopefully, unless of course you get YOLO'd by heavy tanks that are traveling similar sort of speeds to you. But considering this is Era 1, it's probably not going to happen. That only really happens in Era 3, where everyone can go 75 kilometers an hour. But either way, yeah, this tank looks pretty good. Accuracy 0.36, aim time 1.9 is pretty solid, and 10 degrees of gun depression allow you to use hills. Hit points of 1750 is okay, nothing outrageous there, but considerably better than the World War II version. So overall, looks like it might be an interesting tank to actually try out. Now, this RU-251 does lead on to the Canonian Jagdpanzer 4.5, and this is a tank destroyer. So although there aren't any kind of, vehicles that maybe are traditional light tanks, these still have the top speed limits that you would expect from kind of tank destroyers or light tanks and stuff like that. So this Canonian Jagdpanzer 4.5 can go at 70 kilometers an hour with a power to weight of 19.46. So it's very, very fast for a tank destroyer, and it was on the borderline of basically being a light tank anyway. So with that being said, of course you want to know what the penetration is on a tank like this, and you'll see that it has 280 damage with 320 pen, which is okay. And certainly at Era 1, this is fine. It's going to be kind of your top tier boy within Era 1, and to be a really, really fun one to try. I always like tanks like this, a bit more kind of nuanced, you have to think a little bit more when you're playing tanks like this. And hopefully that will kind of translate into the actual gameplay. Once again, you have no armor, so you're not going to be able to bounce anything. And yeah, it should be quite fun to actually try out. And essentially that is the kind of ammunition loadout that you're going to be using. You basically don't have any premium rounds. The only rounds that you have additional to the standard rounds are Hesh, which unfortunately have really, really low penetration, and you're most likely going to find it very difficult to actually hit anyone and pen, although you do an extra 90 damage per shell. So maybe you want to take a couple for if you find any of the light tanks. The view range of this vehicle, 505 meters, is pretty significant as well for a tank destroyer, and considering that these are very, very small in reality to a lot of the other vehicles, your still concealment with this tank should be pretty good, and I expect that this could be quite a bush little sniper, and I'm sure that will suit a lot of people's gameplay, and it will be a more relaxed opportunity to try out some tanks than you might see with, of course, the RU-251. So with that being said, you do get a yaw limit of 15 degrees to the left and 15 degrees to the right, so only a 30-degree spread from the kind of center point of your gun, which is lackluster, and so you're going to have to rely on the whole traverse speed to turn quickly and kind of preempt where someone is going to be going. The whole traverse is 42 degrees a second, so it's very, very quick to actually turn. Of course, it doesn't get a turret, but the rate at which the gun actually turns in that kind of hole is 26 degrees a second. So yeah, you should be able to be okay for most situations. Gun depression of 8 degrees is pretty solid as well. So if you're using this kind of on ridge lines and hills and stuff like that, from further away, obviously you don't want to be the first one forward with a tank like this. But if you are trying to use kind of your gun depression over hills, like when you're sniping, it should be pretty good. Accuracy is exceptional, 0.27 base accuracy with a 1.6 second aim time, so this is unbelievably good at being able to pinpoint as well as aim really quickly, which is brilliant for a tank that doesn't have a turret, as you want to make sure that when you're turning, you aim in super, super quickly, because of course you're going to get the bloom from turning the hull of the tank, so should be pretty good as well. And once again, I feel like these two tanks that we've already showcased so far seem to be relatively balanced and should be quite fun to play, even if they aren't the best tanks that you'll see in Era 1. Of course, then we move into the Escalation Era 2, and this is where the Raketen Jagdpanzer comes in. And as you can probably kind of guess, with Raketen, similar to Rocket, I would assume, and yeah, this one has some anti-tank guided missiles, or ATGMs, and a 7.62 machine gun served as a secondary weapon. But whether we'll use the actual machine gun is unknown at this point in time, but it looks like this vehicle is going to follow the same sort of statistics in terms of mobility as the Canonian Jagdpanzer from the tier before. And this one has hit points slightly buffed, you've got a power to weight ratio that's slightly higher than the Jagdpanzer before, and so you should be able to maintain and move at that top speed slightly better. Your whole traverse is slightly better, so you can turn quicker, and you have a yaw limit of 180 degrees to the left and 180 degrees to the right, allowing you to be fully able to turn your entire turret. And with the turret traverse, you've got 40 degrees a second, so this should be very, very easy to be able to turn this tank around. However, of course, being that it is a big box of no armor, it should be penned by mostly everything that you'll ever meet in Cold War, especially Era 2. But the big thing with this tank is, can it actually pen anything? Well, yes, it has 660 pen with its main armament, which is those ATGMs, and it deals 1210 damage. And if you've seen the recent light tank that we've actually got in Cold War, I expect it will play very similar to that one, whereby it doesn't feel amazing in the game. You don't feel like you're having so much of an impact because you've got such a long reload with that kind of missile launcher, and you have no other option to kind of really counter anyone that might try and YOLO you in between that period of time. But you have an inch clip reload of 12 seconds with that missile launcher. It has 2 shots in the clip, so you can fire off 2 missiles before having to take the long reload of 34 seconds. The damage per minute of this tank is 3,158, which is actually okay. However, that damage per minute relies on you hitting every single one of your shells, and if you miss one of them, you're going to be significantly on the back foot compared to every single other tank, where if they miss one shot, they're going to be reloaded in 6 seconds rather than your 12 seconds. And so you're going to find yourself very, very difficult to play this to the utmost level, I think, and have absolutely crazy games. However, it does have that potential with that such a high alpha damage on its missile launchers or ATGMs with a 1210, so that should be fine. 15 degrees of gun depression, obviously, because it's using a missile launcher. And then you have 18.5 degrees of elevation, which is going to be quite limiting for a lot of situations. But, that's just the case of playing something like this. So you have to work around that. And that is basically the tank. Its view range is lower than the previous tier, and yeah, the signal range doesn't really matter. So overall, looks like a interesting vehicle, probably a fun one to try out and play, but it's certainly not going to be the most competitive tank that you're ever going to see in Cold War for sure, especially at Era 2. Then we move on to the Marder 1A1. This is the Escalation Era 2 light tank, which comes alongside all of the previous. This is unlocked with the Rakuten Jagdpanzer 2, so the one that we've just talked about. It does come off of that, and it will give access to the Begleit Panzer 57, which yep, I have probably butchered all of these names, by the way. But either way, we can have a look at the statistics of this tank. It looks very, very cool. Kind of resembles what you see with like the Bradley, that sort of thing. And yeah, essentially, it's a German version of that vehicle. This one has a power to weight ratio of 25.96, so pretty good. A top speed limit of 83 kilometers an hour, which is amazing. And it also has a reverse speed that is the exact same. So you can reverse 83.1 kilometers an hour as well. But we don't know whether there's any acceleration differences between the front speed and the reverse speed, whether it takes longer to get up to the top speed when reversing, or whether it takes the exact same time as going forward. We're not entirely sure at this point, and it will be a case of when you actually play the tank. But this one gets 10 degrees of gun depression. It has 2 weapons. It has the 20mm Rheinmetall MK20 RH202V2, which is the machine gun with 192 pen on its standard rounds and 25 damage. Or you can fire HE, which I don't know who is going to be doing that, for an extra 5 damage and having 30 damage per shell. This means that you have a kind of significant clip potential because of the fact that you've got 75 rounds in your clip, and the intra-clip reload is 0.06 seconds. So you are firing off probably in the region of about all of your clip within like a second, basically. So it is absolutely crazy, or at least within a couple of seconds. I think it's about 4 seconds or something like that. You'll be able to fully unload your entire clip, which is, yeah, pretty crazy. But with that being said, that means that you are going to be able to be pretty effective with this tank if you're firing off this in between when you're using the secondary weapon, which is an ATGW Milan Launcher V2, which is a 550 penetration, 915 damage missile launcher, and this one has 800 penetration on the secondary, which is going to be more than enough for most tanks at Era 2 with 840 damage. So you can either use the lower penetration for a little bit more damage, or use the super high penetration for slightly less damage. And to be honest with you, dependent on how your playstyle is, I think either one is a valid option. Your aim time is 1.7 seconds, so pretty good as well. Accuracy is very good as well. The reload for this missile launcher is 27 seconds, allowing you to have 2,000 damage per minute. However, of course, you do have the additional kind of 20mm, which you can use to go round people and kind of hit their sides or the rear of their tanks to get increased damage per minute if you combine them both together. So you've got 3.6 thousand with the 20mm and 2,000 with the ATGW. So if you're using them super effectively, you're probably about 5,000 DPM. But unlikely that you will ever reach that because, you know, situations like that are very rare that you can just suddenly switch exactly to the 20mm and pen every single one of your shots. But at the end of the day, it should be quite a fun one to go around and use. And so the view range of the tank, 550 meters, is very good. And as soon as you start adding on perks and stuff like this is going upwards of 600, if not 700 meters of view range, which is going to be exceptional. And so you'll be able to be a real light tank in Cold War. So that would be great. Of course, armor model wise, you've got no armor. It's a light tank. So, of course, that leads on to the Big Light Panzer 57, which is the Era 2 light tank, the one higher up, and it takes 170,000 XP and 3.9 million silver to actually purchase, so pretty reasonable there. This one is, from what Wargaming is saying, is designed to provide infantry support as an armoured infantry support vehicle, AIFSV, built on the Marder armoured personnel carrier chassis. It featured an exposed Bofors 57mm autocannon and a TOW anti-tank guided missile. The Bofors 57 was a ship-based anti-aircraft weapon and repurposed for the provide anti-vehicular and anti-personnel fire. Due to a lack of interest from potential buyers, only one prototype was ever constructed. So this is what it looks like. Looks pretty cool, probably less cool than the previous vehicle, but you know, you can't have everything. And usually the tanks that look the coolest are the worst in World of Tanks console. So yeah, I'm not that surprised. But the Big Light Panzer 57, when it's fully upgraded, gets 2,500 hit points, which is okay. It has a top speed limit of 82.9 kilometers an hour with the same reverse speed as well. You've got a power to weight of 25.6, which is okay. It's up there with some of the better ones, but it's not like exceptional like you see with the RU-251. You have gun depression is 7.5 degrees, so it's not exceptional either. You then have 30 degrees of elevation, which is fantastic. It's going to be fine for most situations. And of course, with the 57mm, it is an autoloader, and you've got 24 shells in your clip with an inch clip reload of 0.4 seconds, allowing you to fire off 2.5 shells per second. And when they're dealing 85 damage per shell, then you're going to be able to deal about 250 damage or 200 damage per second, and of course that relies on you penning, but with 245 pen this should be potentially able to be done. And of course if you load premium, this one does actually have a PDS ammo which has slightly increased penetration, 270. It should be pretty good, so I think that's pretty reasonable as kind of a 57mm could be in Cold War. And now that gives it a damage per minute of 3.4 thousand, which is pretty good. And then, yeah, should be a lot more effective than the previous vehicle. And then we've got the BGM 71B TOW 2, which has 630 pen with 1,100 damage as the secondary weapon of this vehicle. Aim time 1.7 second with an accuracy of 0.28 is good. The penetration on the premium rounds, which are just generally better, it's faster, it's got more penetration and doesn't do anything to the damage, it's the exact same. So a lot of people just going to be firing premium only for the missiles. So yeah, it should be pretty good. You got a reload of 19.5 seconds. It's not an autoloader version of a missile launcher. So you just reload 19.5 seconds and then you'll be able to fire off the next one. Of course, that's the base. So it's going to come down when you've got all your perks and equipment, that sort of stuff. So this is going to get significantly better. And with damage per minute of 3.4 thousand, having a total peak damage per minute of 6.7 thousand, which of course is very unrealistic and probably impossible, as you would be having to fire your 57mm at the same time as firing the TOW. So, you know, it's going to come down quite considerably when that is the case. But either way, it should have a very, very high damage per minute, and it will be a pretty interesting light tank to actually try out, even if it probably might not be as good as we're hoping. Either way, no armor as well, so yeah, the view range 565 meters. It's going to be up there with the top ones in Era 2. Detente era, so this is the worst era in the game, and we're going to be seeing the Marder 1A3, which is the light tank at this tier. It takes 190,000 XP to unlock with a purchase cost of 4.8 million silver, and it is the end of the branch. So this tank, as you can see, looks very much like the Bradley and the previous vehicles that we've got, like the Marder 1A1, which was the kind of Era 2 middle tank. And so with that being said, what's upgraded versus the Era 2 vehicle? Well, this is what we've got. This tank has 3.2k hit points, which is good. The speed limit is 71.4, which isn't the best in the game. The power to weight ratio is also very limited with this tank, only 22, making you quite slow. And the unfortunate thing about kind of Era 3 is that a lot of the heavy tanks can go the same speed as you, which really does suck, and the fact that they can just basically roll around literally keeping up with you when you're trying to run away is not something that is entirely fun when it comes to Era 3, because everyone is fast, and so the point in being a light tank becomes nullified, and so you've traded your armor for no speed. So there's got to be some benefits to playing this tank, surely. And so with that, you've got 10 degrees of gun compression, which is basically the bog standard for these types of tanks. You have a 20mm main armament as your primary weapon with 214 pen. Era 3 with 214 pen. I wonder where you're going to be able to pen things. Oh yes, only the rear of vehicles basically. And so it's going to be really painful. I'm sure you can pen the side of some vehicles. Of course, if you're coming up against light tanks, you'll have an easy time of penning them basically everywhere. But still, you're having only 214 pen. The premium rounds, they don't exist. They only have a HE with really bad pen, so you're not really ever going to be using them. 25 damage, and you have a reload time of 19.4 seconds for a 75 clip. So it's basically the same weapon, except this one just fires faster in between its shells. Or at least does, have like a reduced reload of the whole clip. So yeah, a 19.4 second reload for the clip, 4,719 damage per minute with this. So it's very fast firing, but remember that you are going to struggle with some of these sorts of vehicles with regards to penning things. So it's going to feel a little bit lackluster in that department. But of course, you've got the kind of the Milan Launcher V2, which is very similar to the previous. However, this one gets 880 penetration on its standard rounds with 840 damage. And then the premium mechanic in the game, of course, increased penetration up to 950 pen with the premium rounds. But of course, an extra 300 damage basically. So 1,120 damage with the premium missile launching rounds, 1.7 second aim time is okay, accuracy 0.24, which is okay, and a reload time of 13.9 seconds, allowing for 3.6 thousand damage per minute. So yeah, view range actually pretty good, 590 meters, and when you've got all of your perks and equipment, you're probably getting up to 750 to 800 view range with this vehicle if you're using all of the advantages you can with this tank. But I think that this one is going to be pretty lackluster in how it plays, and you're going to have to rely on this missile launcher to save you in quite a lot of situations. But of course, with all of the weasels running around that are significantly smaller and significantly faster, you're probably going to feel a little bit left out when it comes to this tank. But overall, seems like they've actually gone for a more balanced approach, which I'm definitely in agreement with, as a lot of the tanks in Cold War seem to be especially overpowered towards the higher tiers and just being absolutely ridiculous, whereas these are bog standard. However, they are tech tree vehicles, so don't worry, because the premiums, I'm sure, will be less balanced, as we've seen with basically all of the high tier premiums in Cold War being completely cracked. But either way, looks like a very, very interesting German German light tank and tank destroyer line that we've got in the game coming next week on Tuesday. So let me know what you think of all of these tanks. But before you sign off of this video, we've got a little bit of extra news to go alongside what we have today. So with that being said, we have got the clan leaderboard, the new addition to our portal. The clan leaderboard will show a variety of stats across different date parameters and be able to essentially, from what I can gather, see what the top clans are in the game and see your clan versus other clans and stuff like that. You know, traditional, just being able to see where your clan is. It's not a huge update, but you'll see at least a leaderboard. You won't have to go to a third-party website that there are loads of, and you'll be able to do it on the actual official World of Tanks kind of portal online. So their actual website, you can just go to that and you'll be able to see your clan versus all of the rest of the clans from what we can see, and of course see the stats across different date parameters. So that should be pretty good. Stats, I'm assuming your win rate, the average damage, stuff like that, you know, stuff that is widely available within the game already will just be shown on these. And then the kind of, I guess, Wargaming will come up with their own rating system to rate which clan is the best based on a variety of different factors and stuff like that. So yeah, should be pretty good. Tank Mastery is back next week as well, so you'll be able to pick a class and then earn the Ace Tanker medals to get points to earn class specific mastery emblems and badges, which is good. Nothing major there, but it's a nice little addition. And then the community quiz. So this is a way in which you can pick up free prizes. It's time to test your knowledge of World of Tanks Modern Armor from the earliest days to the latest update. This quiz will test the knowledge of the game's rich history. Those who demonstrated exceptional knowledge by getting all questions correct will be entered into a raffle to win one of the following prizes. Grand prize is the T14 and 3 Celebration War Chests, alongside 3 runners-up getting 3 days of premium and 1 Celebration War Chest. Additionally, everyone who participates will be entered into a raffle to win a Celebration War Chest. So have you got what it takes? Test your knowledge here on the office form on the news article, which I will leave in the description of this video so you can have it and see it directly below, where you can enter in I believe your Xbox ID and then just follow what it tells you to actually put in as your like kind of gamer tag, etc. So for example, when I go on to this is the actual kind of post of what it is, the community contest. You can see this is my in-game gamer tag as it's featured in the game. And then all you do is include a little hyphen and then either X for Xbox or P for PlayStation. That's all you have to put. So your gamer tag here plus dash and then X or dash P for Xbox or PlayStation. And then of course you can go through and answer all of the questions, and these questions are: what were the First Nations tech trees available when What MA is initially released? What was What MA's original name? So What MA is What Modern Armor, if you're wondering. And so what was it originally called? What was the nation of the first tech tree line added to the game after its launch? What do you receive every year on the anniversary of the day you started playing What MA? What is the name of the self-propelled gun that uses the barrage ability? I think we all know this one most likely and have got very triggered with what it does. On which map was the Halloween mode first played? How many tanks have a flamethrower? When is what happening this week article released? And what is the most played tank in the history of World of Tanks Modern Armor? This one is very interesting. I would assume I won't give you any hints, but I think we know what the most kind of played tank will probably be. And it might actually shock you, I think, as to what is the most played tank in World of Tanks Modern Armor. Of course, you could probably search these ones up if you're really interested, but I mean, the whole point is it's a ton of fun. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give you any clues to any of these, but there's some in here that I probably wouldn't know either. Like, for example, what do you receive every year on the anniversary of the day you started playing What MA? I'm not going to take part in this event because if I do get them all right, I don't want to take a spot of someone else. So I won't take part in the quiz. I will do it, but I won't actually enter myself into the giveaway. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the real answers are, and hopefully World of Tanks will actually post what the answers to all of these questions are when the kind of event ends, I guess, so we can see whether or not we were actually right. And yeah, I'll be interested to see what you guys think about the quiz. So I like this, I think it's good, and it should be an interesting one for those of you that are still watching at this point in the video. Of course, we don't want to make it go any longer. Hopefully that has covered everything you need to know for next week. I'm sure that there will be some information regarding bundles and discounts and stuff like that alongside the community event that will come out closer to Tuesday. Usually they come out on a Monday, so you should be able to see that on Monday as to what actually came out regarding the sales and stuff for the following week, which I'll cover alongside all of the streams that we're continually doing every single day for the next 28 days left. So 28 days from here, we'll be ending our kind of daily live streams. So if you want to join me, I'll be online from probably 3 p.m. Or 4 p.m. GMT or whatever that is, wherever you are in the world. So yeah, hopefully you'll join me there, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day, and check out all of the content that we have on the channel if you want some more World of Tanks console, and I will see you there. Goodbye.